Hello, my name is Emma Brown, and I'm a student at the University of Maryland. I'm accompanied by my fellow classmates, and we're all from the university's Art Scholars program. We're here to teach you how to draw your favorite characters. We've chosen very specific characters that you may or may not have heard of, but hopefully you can use these techniques with any characters that you want to draw.
Hi, my name's Kira, and today I'll be teaching you how to draw Robin from Teen Titans Go. As you can tell, I've already started with the general shape. So we have a circle split in two parts with a more eye-shaped top and a triangle bottom, square neck, trapezoidal body, rectangles for the sleeves, torso, and hourglass shapes for the feet with rectangles coming off of those. So I started with the chest and shoulder area. So I started by curving the top of his shoulders and starting to draw the sleeves, which are more of a bell shape. Then going in and starting to add that black piece that's on his suit. And then trying to make his body look a little bit more realistic with his puffed out chest on the left and his curved back curving at the very bottom on the right. Then just redrawing that, trying to make it look a little bit more realistic and accurate. So now I'm starting to do his face, erasing those practice lines, rounding out the shape. And then doing that neck, rounding it out a little bit more into the shoulders. Then starting with his ears, which appear to be a little bit more elfish. And then drawing two lines based off of that from the top and the bottom, which will help me with the nose and eyes later on. So here I am marking out where the nose is going to be as a reference for later, and then I'm going to start on his hairline. So it kind of dives back into the side of his head and then goes all the way across. It also has a widow's peak. It's a little bit higher than what I initially sketched, so I went back and redid that, and then added the little widow's peak, which has two little points to it. Now I'm starting with the side of his hair, which is going to follow this semi-cone shape. It is actually a little uneven, so it's not the same on either side, but it does have the same amount of peaks on each side. So I tried with my best to make the points in around the same spot as they are in the reference. Here I am going back in with that nose, just defining the actual shape so that I can start working on the mouth and the eyes. So Robin wears a mask, and it's kind of like the top wings of a butterfly. So I put the reference, which is like a little bit farther out than where his hairline dives back into the side of his face. And then I'm starting with that general shape, which once again I said is like butterfly wings, is how I think of it. Or like two slanted teardrops, just pointing out that nose, and then marking out the lenses of his mask. Now going in, starting with his utility belt, which is a circle on a long rectangle across his waist with two squares on the sides with a line down the middle of each of them. And they're kind of wonky because they're at an angle, so you can draw it kind of like trapezoids facing outwards. And here I am finally adding the details to his suit. So he has these little yellow blocks coming off of that black part at the top. And then he has this little R for Robin on his chest. And it's kind of like a hexagon almost. It's not an actual circle. And each of those lines kind of helps define how the R is shaped. After resketching his chest and arm, now I'm starting to do his arms, which are quite thin, but have very large gloves attached to them. So you kind of peek the glove out, probably double the size, maybe triple the size of his actual arm. His fists are also very large and defined, so you can see about 3 of his fingers pressed into his hip, which I am sketching out now. Starting on his second arm, it's the same routine, just drawing that thin arm, following the line I initially drew to find where his elbow is, then drawing a large peeked out glove into a large fist where you can see 3 of his fingers curled up into a ball. I think for this one I drew a 4th because I drew the glove a little bit farther out than I initially anticipated, which is perfectly fine. Now starting on his legs and feet. So he has 2-toned legs, so they're green down to about mid shin where it turns black, or it's just under his knee. So I drew the little lines defining that and then started erasing the rectangles because he does have more curved shoes than rectangle. Those are just kind of like a placeholder for where the base of the shoe was going to be. And I'm kind of drawing out that shape. So it curves out but kind of goes flat and then curves at a sharp angle at the tip where his toes would be. And then there's a very defined platform on the bottom, which peeks out from that initial curve, which you can see me doing, and defining that separation with a thicker pencil lining. After fixing a few lines now, I'm going to start shading and coloring. So everything that's black, I just colored in with my pencil. Then I'm going in with his basic colors, which are red, green, and yellow. Note that the tips of his shoes are gray, so I'm going in with a gray pencil. Now add a cape, and there you have it, your very own Robin sketch.
Hello, my name is Alejandro Flores, and today I'm going to show you how to draw Phineas and Ferb from Phineas and Ferb, and Steven Universe from Steven Universe. So let's start with Phineas. I always like to draw these cartoon characters with simple shapes, and the most simple shape on Phineas is his triangle head. So we're going to start with that. Triangle like that. Just about. And when you're drawing these simple shapes, draw them lightly, because we're going to go back and change them in a second. I kind of didn't like that line, so I did that there. Here we're going to go into the collar next, because the shirt has a little collar. And from there, his body is this interesting kind of cone shape. This side's kind of flatter, straighter down, and that side is not as much. And round that off on the bottom. And for his shorts, it's just a little rectangle like that. Split them just about in the middle, line there to show the separation. And for the legs, just these two skinny little things like that. His feet are a nice little globy kind of shape. Do a little end there. Now, let's fix that. I like to do the hair. The hair is this nice palm tree sort of spiky shape, but it doesn't matter, it doesn't need to be precise, it's hair. It does strange things sometimes. Next to the eye, it's just a circle there. Try to get it in the middle, in this line here. And for the middle part of the eye, just try and leave a little bit of blank white space at the top and make like a tall oval. His other eye's kind of poking over his nose and covered by his first eye, so that's like that. And his eyebrows. Next, take this line, bring it in a little bit because it has in a perfect triangle, and just about halfway there, start with this nice shark fin shape for his smile. This lines up right about there with the line I already drew. Bring this down to fit the color. His teeth just go like that, out, and then follow the curve. This one will go in. Here's the inside of his mouth and his tongue. Just about here, you're going to want to add the ear, just a backward circle there. Little lines on the inside, right there. Don't forget the little dots on his head. From here, you're going to want to take these lines here and curve them this way a little bit because his body isn't exactly straight, it's kind of curved. So just erase the other lines and bring these in a tad. For the arms, you can really put them just about anywhere. Just do a kind of sort of rectangle shaped sleeve, curve it a little bit, and have the arm sticking out. And this one's kind of covered by his body, so it's going to be kind of triangle. I'm just going to put that one there on his hip. And of course, gotta add the lines on his shirt. And there's Phineas. Alright, so next up is ferb. I always have a little bit of trouble with ferb, just accidentally making him too short, shorter than I want. So I always tend to just put the height that I want ferb at and just put like a mid-line, just the line just below halfway. That's going to be where we start with his head. So we're going to start out with this kind of shape. Kind of think of it almost like a baseball bat. Just like that, right there. And then about halfway-ish, a little lower, just do this line out. Boom, that's his nose. The top part will go into his face a little bit. The bottom part will stay even there. And his little upper lip goes right there. His eyes goes right there at the end of that nose line. And this one, they always do bigger than the other eye. I always thought that was kind of funny, but there it is. Right about there is the ear, little 3, just to show the lines on the inside. So for the start of his body, there's this interesting collar shape. I always like to think of it, as you can see down here, as a little cool pair of pointy sunglasses. Just gonna draw those there. And his body is kind of like a little thicker than his neck, kind of like a baby carrot shape. gonna draw it almost down to the bottom here and meet up there. Just like that. And for the legs, let's go out, his legs. He's always got his legs, his pants rolled up there, so those get cut off there with that. His legs coming out. This one I kind of got pointing towards us. This one is going to be pointing in that direction. So those shapes like that. Next, his pants kind of have this interesting shape. I have to erase this a little bit because it's really dark lines. But it just comes across like this and fans out. And then he has this little V shape here. Just go over that again. Right there. Next are his sleeves. And again, just like Phineas, you can pretty much put his arms in whatever position you want for whatever arms you want. Just change the direction of the sleeve and draw his arm coming out of it. It's as simple as that. And next, the iconic hair. I was gonna go over the height that I gave set for him a second ago, but that's fine. Little spiky palm tree looking thing, just like Phineas. And a slightly different shape, just like that. And for his eyes, these tall ovals, I like to try and leave them clear in the middle. And he's got down here this little squares here like a belt poking through belt loops. And that's Ferb.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Reitao Chen. I go to the University of Maryland, and I'm here today to show you how to draw Lincoln Loud from The Loud House. The first thing we're going to do is start by marking out proportions of the head, body, arms, and legs. And to do this, we're going to use a lot of boxes and straight lines, just like this. Once we finish this step, as we've done here, we're going to start using these boxes and we're going to add diagonal lines to start to create more accurate shapes. For example, as we start on the head like this, I'm going to start drawing diagonal lines like this, which will eventually become a circle. As we're seeing here, we're starting to breach the lines between a square and a hexagon, or not a hexagon, a pentagon, or not a pentagon, an octagon, my bad. And then we're going to start to add even smaller lines, and as you can see, the shape is starting to resemble a circle more closely. And we'll repeat that step for all the rest of the limbs. Now once we've done this, we're going to start fixing these shapes to look more like their final form. So now I'm really going to start drawing out the head and rounding out these lines. Now that we've finished the basic shape of the body, it's time to start adding in the details. We're going to start adding in things like the hair, the ears, the hands. Just start fixing the picture so it looks exactly like your reference. I've got the eyebrows up here. And some hair designs. Add the teeth here. And the giant nose right here. It's got a couple freckles on both sides of his face. And then we can start adding the designs on his shirt. Now from here we can just start erasing some of these old lines and then adding in the final details to finish the sketch. Alright, and ladies and gentlemen, here is our finished product. Thank you very much for watching tonight, and have a good day.
Hello, my name is Emma Brown, and I'm going to be drawing Luce from the Howell House. I will be using a digital application, but you shouldn't have to worry about that. A simple pen or pencil and paper should be fine. Sorry about that. So, usually when I start a drawing of something that I'm not used to drawing, I make a little rough outline or a sketch of what I think the pose that I want for that character to go in would look like. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I do a little head, a circle for a head, and then this is a neck. This is going to be kind of like the torso. Let's see. And then this is going to be kind of like just a general rule of thumb for like what it's going to look like. I'm just blocking out simple shapes. Kind of like that. So, I'm just going to move that over. You don't have to actually do that. You can just draw it right next to your drawing. But once I have that, I'm going to start on the real sketch. And so this one is going to be a lot more precise. Again, I'm going to start blocking out actual shapes. So, again, well, I didn't really like that one, but... So again, we have the head, and then Luce's head, if you find a reference of the character that you want to draw, for instance, Luce looks like this. I'm going to show it on the screen. And you can see that she has a little indent at the top of her head, or in the middle of her head. And so that's what I'm going to draw when I'm drawing her jaw. That's what it's going to look like. And you see her head is round, and at the jawline, that's where you find her ear. And again, all this is really rough. It doesn't have to be clean. And then once you start that, you just go and keep going, and you keep blocking out everything else. So her torso is going to be a rectangle shape. Torsos tend to look like rectangles, and sometimes they differ, but for most they follow the same rule of thumb. So it's going to be kind of like a prism almost shape, like that. And then I'm going to keep going, and if you notice, there's a difference between this one drawing and this one over here. That's because as I was going along, I was realizing some of the anatomy that I was messing up. And so it's totally fine if it doesn't necessarily come out exactly the way you wanted it to. But that's going to be her waist. And then if I bring this down just a little bit, just so I can have more space. Legs are also kind of like a rectangle shape. Kind of something like that. And then she's going to be bending her knee. You can put a circle where the knee is just to help get the placement right. And that's going to be in full body. And sometimes I change it. Sometimes I do the arms first. Sometimes I don't do the arms first. Here, I did the arms second or last. So you can also put a circle where the shoulders are, and you can extend it. And arms are very similar to legs in that they're a similar rectangle shape, especially for this style. It shouldn't be anything too intense. So you got that. And, you know, if you notice, something that you don't like, you can just erase it and it should be fine. Like, I didn't like the way the arm was looking over there, which is okay. And now my hands are just going to be like that. There's not going to be any fingers yet because I haven't actually blocked it out yet. But, you know, you can just imagine how the fingers you want them to look. I'm using my hand as my own reference. You can use your hand as your own reference if you want to. And that's kind of how I want her hand to look. Kind of like a peace sign, almost. And so, now we have our base sketch. And we can start refining it. Either you can start with an entirely new line art, or you can just leave it at the sketch. I think for this purposes, I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go into the actual sketch itself and keep refining. So here, I usually start at the head, and so sometimes I draw lines to put the placement of, you know, the face and where it's turning. So this is the angle that her head's gonna be at, and really, I'm just going to look at the reference that I have next to me, and I'm going to draw what her hair looks like. Kind of like that. Hair usually goes above the skull, because it's not actually growing, like, on the skull like you think it is. It's going above it. Kind of how anatomy works and all that. And so, I'm just gonna draw that there, and that's gonna be loose, or at least her hair. And as I go down, luckily Loose has a very, very simple clothing or outfit, and sometimes I'll erase the insides. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but sometimes I'll erase the insides of where I put where I blocked out the pose, and that usually helps it look clearer, a little bit better. It's easier to look at usually. So you got that. I think I'm gonna refine this over here. Again, there's nothing wrong with erasing lines that you have that you don't want to be there. Even if you're not using a digital application, there shouldn't be anything wrong with it. Artists erase things all the time. And so that's what I'm gonna make her look like. And now I'm just gonna start refining her actual character model. So I'm gonna erase the lines that aren't supposed to be there, where they're intersecting. I don't think I'm gonna get rid of the circles quite yet, because it helps break down the pose a little bit. I'll add something here, and I'm gonna start drawing her clothes. And luckily they're very simple. If you look at the reference, it's just like a regular t-shirt, hoodie, kind of. And kind of something like that. And for her shorts, very simple to draw. And so far, that's what her general body looks like. And now that I have that, sorry about that, I'm gonna go into her, I'm gonna zoom in on the face, and I'm gonna draw the expression that I want. And so luckily, again, her style is it's very easy to replicate. And it's not going to look exactly the way that the TV does it because it's your style, and that's completely okay. And so, eyebrows, they can be just lines, and her eyes are just regular circles, kind of like that. And then she has eyelashes, the sides, and her mouth, and and there she is. This is a line where if you wanted to color it, you can see that her hoodie is purple at the top and white at the bottom. So if you want to put this line so that you know that this is purple and this isn't, you can, scribble it in to remind yourself. Kind of like that. And then I'd come in and maybe find the fingers here. And that's kind of what it would look like. It would go from here to this. And again, you can do line art and you can clean it up by going over it again and using clean strokes, kind of like if I made a new layer here and I brought down the opacity of the sketch. I could go here and I could start my sketch all over again. I could do this. And that would make a cleaner product than what I have right now. So I'm just going to do this real fast so you can see what it would look like. Again, these are all just one single strokes. It's not going to be anything too fancy. And, and there's the hair. Usually I would take a lot more time on this, but since I just want to show you an example of what it would look like if I did do the full line art. And you can do this over paper too, and then you can erase the pencil lines when you're done. Make sure I get this right. And that's me just doing a really quick pass over my sketch. And if you wanted to erase what's underneath, you just do that. And that's what it would look like. Again, it's not exactly what it would look like because, well, I would usually spend more time on it. But so far, this is what we've got. And so, that's how you take it from just a general sketch, just a small sketch, to a more refined sketch, and then regular overpass of line art.
Thank you for joining us to draw all these great characters. I hope you'll be able to use some of these techniques as you explore some more of your favorite stories. And if you would like any more guidance on any more specific drawings or any more other crafts that you can do, feel free to check out the Prince George's County Memorial Library YouTube channel and the website for more resources. Thanks for joining us.